Be more grind, rise, shine through the struggle. Black dollar circulate, flexing muscle. Politics and biz building walls like bricks. Motown soul rap mixed in the fix. Tiny cover spitting truth, microphone holder. Past the noise scene, watch growth in the folder. Black biz bright spotlight in the dark. Hustling hard, lighting sparks in the park. Beam on new, where we breaking glass ceilings. All black every day, income healing. Donnie Glover, flip the script. Let's go, Black Wall Street roadmap. Be more flow. Real talk, stock rise. Dreams ain't looking hollow. Blueprints, handshakes, enemies wallow. Baltimore kings, queens, crown on the throne. Legacy built, stone by stone. Headlines, deadlines, moves in the background. Politics, money clips, elevate the town. Black beard strategist, wealth can't be missed. Twist the plot, make the whole world twist. Be more news, success we inhaling. Victories, IRS, no detailing. Donnie Glover, rise to shine, let's glow. Focused on
For GDP is $23 trillion. 23
Be more grind, rise, shine through the struggle. Black dollar circulate, flexing muscle. Politics and biz building walls like bricks. Spitting truth, microphone holder. Past the noise scene, watch growth in the...
First name's Doni, last name's Glover. Entered to win it for the long haul, baby. Let me tell you something. What can go wrong in the world of the internet will go wrong. And I promised myself just yesterday that I would plug these books. I do not plug these books enough. Unapologetically Black, that's 2015. 2015. This came out just around the same time Freddie Gray happened. Unapologetically Black. The second book, I Am Black Wall Street, 2021. And of course, last year, Journalpreneur. Speaking of Freddie Gray, speaking of West Side, we got the man with the meanest glasses on in the pulpit. Bishop, top of the morning, praise the Lord.
How you doing, young man?
Man, bishops don't dress like you, man.
I have a long history of dressing. My dad and them worked at Pop Kelly's on Pennsylvania Avenue.
Pop Kelly's?
Yeah, they were tailors.
Pop Kelly's. I heard that name because I think you might be a couple years older than me.
Yeah, I'm a couple years. Yeah, they it was on they did a lot of tailoring on Pennsylvania Avenue. All my uncles too.
But you were a bishop with a sidekick though. I remember you had that gi on. You remember having to do them push-ups on your knuckles at the Y?
YMCA. I remember it every day. I was around there not too long ago for the rites of passage. And I remembered, man, this is where we got our training.
Bishop, can we start this morning with prayer and just thank
absolutely. God, we thank you today for giving us another day, the breath, the possibilities, the energy to do what we need to do, and the vision and purpose to do that. We pray for this great man. We thank you for 60 years of life. We thank you for all of the issues, the challenges that you kind of brought us through. We give your name glory. We give your name honor. We are great and you're great. Amen.
Amen. You know, Bishop, we talk about P. David Bramble being still in the community. We talk about Adrian Harpool still being in the community. Let's tell them about Bishop Kevin Daniels.
Ooh.
Still
in the community. I grew up in West Side. I'm pastoring in West Side. I grew up Pennsylvania Avenue. That's when the Provident Hospital was there. And I was cushioned in by Trinity Baptist Church and the mosque to the right of me. Again, even though in some sense we were poor, we have most of the families near on Division Street and right around the corner from Pennsylvania Avenue. We were cushioned with a whole lot of community wealth, in the sense that the community raised us, cushioned us. We didn't even know we were poor, because there was just so much support that we had. And the church that I'm pastoring now, of course, St. Martin Church, I left Trinity, went up there, but then came back to pastor it. And I've been there for 26 years last month. I'm working with community. The majority of my ministry, 65% or more, is those that are in recovery and those that are returning citizens. So West Baltimore was good to me, and I'm going to be good to West Baltimore.
Now, Bishop, you know I'm a wordsmith. Were you poor or were you broke?
I like that. We broke.
Because poor
yeah.
is a state of mind.
Good correction.
Okay. You told me that in my father's house.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
One of the blessings in your community was a rec center.
Yes, sir. Crispus Attucks.
Tell me about that rec. You're right across the street from, would they call those apartments or projects?
Yeah, wow. They called them projects back in the day.
They were projects.
Yeah, that's Crispus Attucks. We had places to go after school. We had places to go during the summer. And Crispus Attucks, of course, there was B&B, there was the Project Survival, all of the basketball. We had
BNBL, that's it.
That's right. That would guide us. That would kind of guide us, and do something with our energy. Crispus Attucks was open every day after school. Those hours that normally they say people tend to do a lot of crime, we were covered. During that particular time, they had basketball, ping pong, all of those kind of things. So we were covered. And the YMCA, we had the savings and loans around the corner. That's what I meant by, that's what I meant by not knowing, because we had the savings and loans. We had the skate land right around the corner. Literally, it was sitting there. We had a hospital. That's what I mean by growing up with a sense. And we had years ago, Cess Restaurant. That's where my mom worked. And all of the stars would come in from around the corner from the Royal, and they, Red Fox, all of them would come along. Slappy White. We had the basketball court right down the street. That was in Upton. So again, what a level of community that was real powerful.
Who was Slappy White? I didn't heard who he was. I see the building around there across from St. Peter Claiborne. He was a comedian.
He was a comedian with Red Fox at that time. And so again, even Reverend Minister Louis Farrakhan came to Cess because the mosque around the corner was the first mosque in Baltimore City. So we were more cushioned. We were very much so cushioned. Wasn't much you could do as far as rebellion. And then we had the Arabs. All of them, we knew what fresh groceries was. J.J. Brill's, we had all of that right around that Lafayette Market. We had all of that right around the corner. So I was wealthy as far as I was concerned.
Woody Melon.
Down to the Ryan. Yes, sir. Down to the Ryan. And with that level of community, it supported me. And sure enough, when it was time to pastor, coming out of school as a social worker, I said yes to that community, and I'm still working in that community.
Never in your lifetime have you seen $40-50 million come to West North Avenue.
Man, it's been it's It's important because of what West Baltimore has done for the city. Again, it was the mecca for Baltimore City in a lot of regards. So to see it coming back, it's a moment whose time has come. It really is, with housing, all of that. And with David Bramble living right down the street, we have our senior buildings next door. We continue to fight for them. It's just what I'm used to. And again, when people give back to you to that extent, you give back to them as well. When they keep asking me, what you do, why I do it, why I'm not pastoring in the county, nothing wrong with the county. I want to be very clear about that. But I'm giving back to, definitely what has supported me.
Well, I guess I could picture you at Liberty Road in Old Court preaching.
Yeah, I've been up there on occasions. Yeah, no, but it's powerful. And in just some of the school, Utah Marshburn, Robert C. Marshall, all of those schools.
Don't forget Booker T.
Ain't no way I could forget Booker T. Good grief.
Is that your junior high school?
That was my junior high school. All of those awesome teachers that said to me, listen, you can go to, I know you can go to any school you want to, but you keep telling us you want to be an engineer. You can go to Poly. My grades were not there because I grew up with a learning disorder. And my grades were not, them teachers worked with me, community worked with me. And all of a sudden, man, I'm on my way to Poly. And the rest was history for that. Yeah, they pushed me.
You finished at Poly?
I finished at Poly. They pushed me. The National Security Agency, I went to work for them for a while doing the signals intelligence and all of that good stuff. Started off down and working with materials, but then I ended up going up and start working with them in signals intelligence. So I fulfilled that, but then I wanted to be a social worker.
I got to take you back to Poly. I ain't gonna let you out because I did 2 years in that, Jordan. And I can't stop what they did 20 years in Hagerstown, 15 years in Jessup House of Corrections. I did 2 years at Baltimore Polytechnic in that A course, and that rocked my world.
Man.
But how did it feel going to a citywide school and all the people you grew up with? I imagine, where did they go?
They go to Douglas. They went to Douglas and Carver. My brothers went to Carver. And then the others went to Douglas. But I wanted to try myself, really push myself with engineering.
How did it feel? Okay, were you the only one in your neighborhood who went to Poly?
I was at the time. Yeah, I think I was the only one that went to Poly. Everybody else went to Carver and/or Douglas. I'll never forget that. I wanted to go over to Lake Clifton, but my guidance counselors kept saying, "No, we're gonna push this. I think you need to push yourself," and that's what they did. They pushed me, and that's when I ended up going up to Poly, and it was different. It was different because I ain't never seen that many white folk in my life.
Neither had I. And them white boys can fight in Hamden.
I'll never forget the experience I had in there with them. That's when they will allow the T course to happen as well. And that's where a lot of our football players went. I got a whole church full of city folk.
Oh my God, that must be tough when it comes to
it's devastating. They text me and allow me to know that you lost this game. There was no way when we were going to Poly that we would ever lose those games. We had those big dudes from the T course that filled that program.
Well, big brother, I left Poly and went to Dunbar.
Oh, I went there for a while too.
And years later, I found out that Poly was spanking Dunbar on the basketball court.
Yeah.
You could have. I never would have believed that.
That like I went down there for a little while after school and things like that for the Dunbar Chamber Choir with Hugh Carey.
Hugh Carey, big ups to Hugh Carey.
Yes, sir.
But what I'm getting to, all of your friends with the Douglas and the Carver, and I'm not going to stay on this, but
Right.
Anointed is set apart, right?
Right.
You couldn't go outside. You had to do your homework. Yeah, I know you had a couple hours of homework every night at Poly.
More than couple hours of homework.
So you couldn't hang out with your friends.
No, because I was on that 30. That's when them buses, the 30 bus, Poly Western. You had to be on it if you wanted to go straight through to get down there on McMecken Street to get that bus. So I had to go straight home. Most of my friends up in Poly had cars. They had their parents' cars. But I had to, when that bell rang, I had to get on that bus. Because it would have taken me half the night to get home. Absolutely.
I went to Poly. It wasn't no going outside. It was going home and cracking that book open.
Man, I'll never forget trigonometry and calculus and I'm teaching.
Some of her children are having trouble over algebra.
And algebra. But I have a way of teaching it now that instead of top down, I always say cultural literacy is the best because top down, when you start getting formulas at Poly, they started teaching based upon formulas and then running them down. But one of the things they taught me at Booker T was ask the teacher to show you how algebra works in everyday life and then give you the formula. That's how I learned algebra, trigonometry, and calculus.
Did you feel like Black students were targeted at Poly to get weeded out?
Well, that's a good question because
we were like 35-40% at best at Poly back then. We were outnumbered.
It was a whole culture shock for me at that point.
Disco sucks. Remember that?
That is right. That's
Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd.
Yeah. Well, that was a whole culture shock for me to leave Booker T, where I've been cushioned with just seeing my people, but then to be able to go at Poly and see all these white boys, white girls, it was a whole culture shock for me. It took me a minute.
I never heard of Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd. That was terrorism. They said disco sucks.
That is right.
No, it don't.
That's right. Absolutely correct.
Poly had the best discos in all of Baltimore.
Man, Friday nights from 8 to 10.
All of them came to Poly.
That is right. Poly discos.
You had the Sebagos with the
Azad shirts
from Finkelstein's up there in Tulsa.
I couldn't afford none of that. That's why I hurried up, went to school, and came on home. Had some of my brother's hand-me-downs. That's why telling these stories, these young people don't know. Some of us wasn't privy to all of that.
I had to wear the same pants once or twice.
The hand-me-downs. My brothers were like, okay, I'm not wearing these no more. That's how we did it. That is right.
But we didn't, I can relate to what you said. We didn't know we were, I won't say poor. I'll say broke.
Yeah. That's right. That's right.
Until I went away to college. Went down there to Morehouse. And you talking about rich Black people.
Wow.
And male and female. I remember. So tell me about, we ain't gonna get into trouble. Who is this guy, Darius George Hall?
Again, the whole family, is special to me because that's a part of my family.
How many of y'all is it?
It's 4,000 of us.
It's about that many.
Yeah, and we found that out. We found that out because all of my Hall family lived in the neighborhood, and Darius was hanging out with them, but none of us really knew. Even when they came to the church, the neighbor came to St. Martin. I had no idea until I started doing a part of at Morgan State University. I started to do ancestry. I started to do all of that ancestry work as a part of Black Families course, and realized, wow, these are the halls. These are the halls that my cousins, that my uncle and all of them talked about. And here we are sitting here as family. And sure enough, because I got a whole slew of halls that grew up in West Baltimore. And sure enough, I'm just putting this plug in.
Uh-huh.
And sure enough, it was Darius in them. Yeah. So again, but I mean, and you can tell a hall. Number one, some of them were short, but then some of them they had a mouth on them, and they can cuss you out too. Yeah,
Tell me
but
about
again,
this ancestry thing in Morgan.
well, we do a Black families, and it's a Black families course, and a part of that course is, even when you're teaching it, a part of that course is to dig into your ancestry. Again, you can kind of go back. Most of it you can go back 2 and 3 generations, but then to really do the deep work, people recommend that you do some kind of DNA, things like that. But I was still able to go back and really find ancestry.com, the Genealogy Society, being able to go back and find more generations. And that's when I was able to kind of find some of the records and then look and see, oh, wow, in our family, the same, our great uncle, again, Eleanor, and also, being able to find out that that's who it was, and then we connected the dots.
Do you trust Ancestry.com?
Well, I mean, again, no, I don't absolutely put trust in any of it. So I went down to the state. I went to the state and just looked into some of their records in Annapolis. And of course, there was some really good help down there to really go back and find. And then, of course, they went into some of the rooms where you couldn't even touch the books. That's where they signed the slaves' names and things like that. But then I was able to find information right there as well on both sides of the family. And they were able to help me connect the dots because people got married, people took on different names. But then, I was able to kind of go in and really just find some of that information.
I've learned a few things. I know one, that Virginia had better records than most other states.
Right. That's exactly right.
I also learned that the Mormons own Ancestry.com. Is that right?
Right.
And I'm getting ready to come with the curveball. It's baseball season. Do you have Black Indian in your family?
I would believe so. I didn't really, in looking at a lot of that, it had it down there as such. I couldn't. None of us could not imagine that we got a taste of a little bit in us.
Well, let me tell you why. Because a storyline is painted as if all Black people in America are descendants of those who came to America in the bottom of a slave ship.
Right.
That's assumed.
Right. That's right.
Just like it's wrongly assumed that all white people who came here owned slaves.
Right. That's right.
Some white people were slaves.
Right.
Some white people were indentured servants.
Right. That's right.
To own a slave, you actually had to have some money.
Right.
Now, I don't know if you've been looking outside your window on North Avenue
Yeah, we have.
or McCullough Street,
Yes, sir.
but there's a whole lot of white people
That's right.
panhandling in the black community.
That's right. Absolutely correct.
So there's this assumption that all black people came to America in the bottom of a slave ship and
No,
that
and
all
that's-
white
that's-
people own slaves.
That's right. Because I
And
think
it's not true.
that is absolutely correct. The first several hundred years, persons, black people owned properties. Then all of a sudden, here comes chattel slavery.
Sadly, some black people own slaves.
That is absolutely correct.
But here's something else. Now, I've done a little research too. There have been black people in these Americas for thousands of years.
Thousands of years. The Olmecs.
The Olmecs. Out there in Las Vegas, there's a hotel called the Luxor.
Right.
Does anybody ask themselves, why do you have an Egyptian-themed hotel in the middle of the desert? Maybe that's because in the Grand Canyon, there's this place called Kincaid's Cave that has Egyptian artifacts.
Right.
There's also Mansa Musa, the king of Mali.
That's Songhai. That's right.
Who sent 1,000 ships
That's right.
that never came back.
That absolutely correct.
So we don't know what we don't know. And I'll tell you what I'm not going to go for and say the Moors too. Well, yes, and the Moors.
Right.
The Moors are dominating Europe, Spain, and Portugal for 800 years.
That's right. I tell my young people all the time at Morgan, and we have a rich history, dynasties prior to Europe, all of that. We have a rich destiny, and it is, and to be able to untap that and to help them realize that within the core of who they are is just pure greatness. Even with
Watch this, Bishop. You been to Druid Hill Park around the reservoir?
Yes, sir.
At the easternmost tip of the reservoir. Say you walking laps around an old reservoir. There's a tower. There's a Moorish tower. It's not English architecture. It's actually Spanish. It don't look British. We forget why we speak English.
Right.
We somehow are part of the British language. We speak English because we came about as America was dominated by the British.
Right. Right.
Francis Scott Key, "Oh Say Can You See," Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, blah, blah, blah. But if you ever been to New Orleans, they have French and Spanish influences.
Yeah.
In Canada, they speak French.
Right.
Out west, they speak a lot of Spanish. I'm just saying there's a lot to history that we just don't know. Tell me about Morgan State University. How is it being at the hashtag National Treasure?
Well, again, for me, our ancestors gave vision to that, especially coming out of a clergy perspective, green, brown. A lot of them gave a whole lot of vision to Morgan State University, 1867. Gave a whole lot of vision to Morgan. So when I went up to Morgan, again, I think that, a lot of the work that's being done, of course, we have about 11,000 students that's coming from around the world. But again, mine I went up to Morgan because I wanted to be a part of the School of Social Work. And I got a hold of one of my mentors and favorite teachers was Elmer Martin, Dr. Elmer Martin. I took all his classes. Didn't matter. He really shaped my African thought, but he also shaped my faith perspective, and really giving me some real history about faith, through the rites of passage, all of that. He said to me, I'll never forget, this is the thing that really was very powerful for me. He had one book that he had not created a course for, which was Religion, Spirituality, and the Helping Tradition. That was his last book. And as one of his students, he looked around the room and he said to me, he said to all of us, he said, listen, I'm getting ready to leave and I'm going to transition and die on the Nile River in Africa. I think it was about 53 years old.
He predicted that.
And he said, I'm going to pass. But what I want y'all to do, if any of y'all come back to teach at Morgan, we were his last class. He said, if any of you come back to teach at Morgan, develop this course, this latest book that me and my wife Joanne just created. Please develop this course. Well, when I came back to teach at Morgan, that's exactly, I had his old office, and I went in and developed that course. It is one of the courses, Religion, Spirituality. I developed it for undergrad for critical thinking, but then I developed it for master's program, Religion, Spirituality, and Clinical. And then I developed it for the PhD program for urban communities, Religion, Spirituality with urban communities. It is one of the courses, Morgan, it's about 10 or 15 sections of it in Morgan now. And 30 students each come into each one of those classes. It is very powerful course. But I felt the need and the call to bring that kind of faith tradition back to Morgan, especially because of who our ancestors was that gave vision to that.
So for those who may not know, Dr. Elmer Martin co-founded Great Blacks in Wax Museum.
Yes, sir.
Now he predicted he would die on the Nile.
Yes, he told the whole class. We were looking at him. That was new to us. We were kids, young, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm going to." That's what, and he did. He went, and that's where he died on the Nile, in a boat. And we were when we got the news, we were in a total state of shock.
No, I remember. I heard the story.
Yeah,
I didn't know he predicted it though.
Oh, he told his, and we were young, so we were like, "What's happening here?" And then for it to happen like that, we were in a state of shock. It took us years. Well, I know it just took me years to really understand that level of visioning and transitioning. But and as you can see, it stayed with me to the point where I came back years later and wrote that into curriculum, and it is a very strong course, even for all engineers, architect students, all of the students over the campus pile into that course for critical thinking. Real powerful course. And we look at things like African traditional religion. We look at Hinduism, Buddhism, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, atheism, and agnosticism. And we put a critical thinking perspective to it. Phenomenal course.
Do y'all look at voodoo?
We look at all of it. All of the, coming out of the African traditions, of course, is Voodoo, and all of that. And they go into, students just did their presentations yesterday. Phenomenal. And again, the course is not necessarily to impose religion or any kind of spirituality, but it is to think critically about it. And to be able to use critical thinking skills, deductive, inductive, abductive, all of those skills as you are navigating conversations, because it becomes something very critical so that you never get stuck and you're able to be challenged and be accountable to anybody.
Have you ever thought to teach your copping?
Oh, copping is, that's where my fraternity. That's where I went at for my fraternity work. So plus most of the PhD students, most of them all work over copping. That's right down the street. Of course I thought about teaching at copping. Did a lot of work over there as well.
What
I did
fraternity?
a Phi Beta Sigma. That's with Marvin, Doc, Cheatham, and all them fellas.
Y'all took over that event the other night.
I sure did. Yeah, I didn't know that they were going to do that. They were there to do that, but absolutely, we're the blue. And
I'm like,
then all my
this look like a takeover here. I'm like in gang territory.
all my family and friends were a little upset with me when I joined Phi Beta Sigma because they thought I was going to be an alpha, like most of them. Reverend Calhoun, all of those guys are alphas. So they were disturbed when I went into Phi Beta Sigma.
Scott Phillips, Derek
Yes,
Burnett.
sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All of the brothers, all of the blue. Yes, sir. But no, it's been a good journey, and it continues to
LaVon
be
Porter.
even. That's right. It continues to be a good journey. Kevin Parson, a lot of those guys, and it continues to be John Lunn. It continues to be a good journey even now. So again, and I definitely appreciate that. A lot of people have given to me.
I don't know. Doc Cheatham might have taken over that blue though. Don't nobody wear that blue like Doc Cheatham.
Yeah, he took it all out the stores. That's why we can't find none.
It makes me think of A. Philip Randolph
A. Philip Randolph.
and the National Labor Union movement that a lot of people don't know has roots right here in Baltimore.
Man.
Over there on the water with Isaac Myers, Frederick Douglass Maritime Park and Museum. Isaac Myers was, one could say, the founder, the creator of the National Black Labor Union movement, ship caulkers.
Yeah. And a lot of even our black churches like Trinity, they taught us that history of Austin Waller, and how, in Baltimore, the Niagara movement was pivotal to the NAACP. But then secondly, Reverend Diggs at Trinity, they taught us all of that when we were growing up, how he was very, very, very much so close to Marcus Garvey in the movement, African movement.
Pan-Africanism.
Yeah, he was, but they taught us all of that, and a lot of our folk don't know that some of these churches, these were powerhouses. I mean, again, I'm not saying that they're not now, but the level of civic engagement and
Have
community.
you ever heard of Maggie Walker?
Maggie Walker, yes, I've heard of
Maggie
her.
Walker was the matriarch of Richmond's Black Wall Street. They have a statue in her honor there in Richmond. See, there were three official Black Wall Streets. One was in Tulsa. The other two were in Richmond and Durham. And they had this thing, and I know you've come across it. It was called Penny Savings and Loan.
Yeah.
Maggie Walker was the first Black woman to charter a bank. But it had roots to Baltimore, and it was called the St. Luke's Society.
Wow.
Back in the day, they had these orders or societies which served poor people or broke people. And the first Black bank in Richmond came out of this St. Luke's Society, which has roots in Baltimore.
Yeah.
Baltimore had, of course, the largest number of freed Blacks prior to the Civil War.
Right.
So Baltimore was a jump off.
Right.
If you could make it to Baltimore, you could probably get to cross the Mason-Dixon line, get on up north.
Right. That's right. Yeah, they I grew up in where I was down at Murphy Homes, but then we moved up to Division Street, and right across the street was Thurgood Marshall's house. I was at 1600 blocks, 1633, and his house was across 1632. And of course, all that history, all that legacy was definitely taught to us, and it was taught in a way that was memorable. But then, the Goon Squad, so all of them, even build organization, Reverend Dobson, how they began and started all of those grassroots movements. Of course, I continue in that work today.
Why didn't you move out?
And that was, people asked me that, had many opportunities to do it, but because of legacy and giving back, there was so much poured into us during that time. That's the only thing that it really kept my focus. Was I want to come back and give back to the communities in the city that gave back to me. I know, you don't anticipate everybody to do that. And it's no negative feeling at all. It's just that for me, it was crucial that I come back and continue that legacy and that work that some of those giants, even like Homer Favor. I was so admired by the Urban Institute that he started. And not only did he start, but the work, the research that they did served the civil rights movement and gave them the data that they needed to make the arguments. All of that it's been something that was real memorable.
Do young pastors today know this history? Homer Favor, Marion Bascom,
Absolutely.
Vernon Dobson,
Yeah.
Harvey Johnson.
Harvey Johnson. That's absolutely right.
Do your young preachers today, Wendell Phillips,
yeah,
do they know this history?
Well, I they cannot be around me, and I don't teach it. I teach it in school, all of it. I remind them that these facilities, churches, were more than just facilities of where we just had a good time, and we expressed our African self, but it was also these were houses of information that guided the civil rights era. So that's what made it so powerful. And my job, I believe, is to continue to remind them of that. I remind my church, I remind my students, all 26 years that I've been there.
Okay, Bishop, we're going to meet you at church, but I'm going to tell you something. If somebody, I remember one time going to Ricerstown Road. There was a sub shop on Ricerstown Road at Gwynns Falls. And it was my last $20. And I'm about to go into the store, and I look through the glass, and I see everybody is like this. And I go to open the door, and somebody tried to grab me by the arm. I was like, get out, Mom. Why are you pulling me in there? And then I thought to myself, everybody got their hands up. It was a stick up.
Wow.
You're still in the community, so I know you can't be doing stick ups at your church.
No. Yeah, no stick ups at the church.
But Marvin Sapp got caught doing what you and I have seen done.
Oh yeah. I mean, people raising offerings, where and when persons ask me about it, of course, again, because this is a social media era, again, you almost I just got to make sure the authenticity of it is correct, and when it happened, and all of those kind of things. But again, what we've on the corner where my church is, even when we ask for offering, it's been recommended. Because we did we got stuck up one time where the money was taken. It was recommended that we do lock the doors, because that was the times, and this was a couple of years ago. But that was the time, I wouldn't say a couple, about 5-6 years ago that it happened. They got the person walking out and taking the money around the corner, around the corner to the, into the office. And again, that's when it was recommended to us to lock the doors as well. I think this, whatever reason, I don't know the specifics of what the 40,000 was needed and why lock the doors, but I do understand.
You ain't doing no stick ups and no people like that.
No. But I do understand. I definitely do understand because it happened to me and it was very disappointing. And that somebody would, knowing the work that I do and every dollar counts that's given, with some of the folk that I have now, they can't give.
Sound like somebody might have had a drug habit.
Yeah. Especially sitting on the corner where I sit. Some of them can't give. So every little dollar to us matters because we give to them. Some of those in recovery and those that are, returning citizens.
Well, it's about 400 in that Hall family. I know whoever it was, they didn't get far and they didn't go far
No,
along.
they didn't get that far. No, they didn't get that far. But it was just, but that's when it was recommended that we lock the door. So again, with this one, I didn't get too far into what happened with Marvin Sapp, but it was an unfortunate one. It was.
He said, "Y'all not getting out of here till y'all give me some more money."
Yeah. And again, from what he said, and you know where churches have gone. Again. Monies, and where money's sometimes needing. Some people need, some people don't. And like everything, impact is everything. People need to see, Dr. Daniels need the money because he has recovery. But also, one of the good things that we do too, we look at other sources of resources to be able to fund some of the projects that we do.
St. Martin's ain't never been taking nobody. Been more of a help than anything.
Oh,
and right in the middle. And like I say, they go around there messing around if they want to, because all Darius George all got to do is make one phone call.
One call, and they right there.
Yeah, I would not recommend that to anybody. You might want to try another church.
Yeah, no, it's unfortunate that churches now have to be with social media and all of that. Churches got to be careful, but then churches also, number two, we definitely got to continue to find our civic responsibilities to our communities. And a part of the Ministers Conference Empowerment Center that we are a part of, we challenge churches to make sure that they use their facilities for their communities and that their communities know them.
What did that who's who in Black Baltimore say about us?
Well, it's funny you mention that because I was, my first thing when something was sent to me about who's who, I kept sitting there thinking to myself, man, there's a lot of people in Baltimore that deserve this honor. How in the world did they select a few people? But then when I got down there, of course, I realized there was no way that you could just speak to, that you could just pick 20 people. They picked over 300 people to honor, and because there's a lot of greatness as far as I'm concerned in Baltimore, but also it was an honor for me because it is the Afro. 1892. I love history. John Murphy and some of the work. That was around the same time McKinley was president. I listened to Donald Trump sometime, and he talks about McKinley and the terrorists. But that was the same time the terrorists was happening when they started the Afro. And again, it was very powerful to me that, and Draper, I've been knowing her for years, and how they've kept that family legacy going. But then the history of it meant everything to me because it is the Afro, and how they were such a major part of pushing the civil rights movement, hiring Black journalists, all of that, Black intellectuals during the time. while fighting Jim Crow and all of that. So to be honored or to be named among a lot of that was very powerful. I get concerned, particularly when I put the history together and realized, wow, this was during the time when the tariffs was taking place under McKinley, that led to the Gilded Age, that led to all of those J.P. Morgan, Rockefeller, all of them that became that really took wealth on the other end. And so for the Afro to get started and really do that kind of work and really do that and still be operating today, listen, that was a real honor to be named among them, like yourself. I to just name 25 people, I kept saying, I don't know where you're going to just pick in Baltimore when there's a lot of people doing a lot of work. And I'm sure there's still even more people that are unsung, but people like Dr. Tony Draper, she was right there. She came through, supported me when my mom passed, things like that. It just, you're not just some of those leaders didn't just sit up in their ivory towers. They came to community, and that's the kind of thing that I so appreciated.
I got to ask you about the significance of the YMCA to your growing up.
Oh.
The Druid Hill YMCA, or
Oh.
as us locals say, Drew Hill.
Yeah. I mean, we used to do swimming. 6 feet. I remember they had 6 feet. I don't even know if they still have the pool down there.
The pool is still there.
Is it still there? Wow.
I don't think it's 6 feet because that was some deep water.
Yeah, that was deep. They used to we were in 3 feet on the other end, and my brothers and them, you would see them walking towards you because they were getting ready to take you out of 3 feet and throw you in the 6 feet. You remember that?
You gonna learn to swim today.
They would say, you're gonna learn to swim, and they would come get us and throw us in the water. They would monitor us, but they would throw us in the water, the basketball court, the ping pong table.
You
karate,
remember boxing?
Boxing.
Very few people remember the boxing. Camp Oswego.
That is absolute. Camp Concern. Yeah.
Camp Concern was more than a camp. There was something going on. Something about that Camp Concern.
Yeah, it was something about Camp Concern. They would give us this little, when we were getting ready to eat at Camp Concern, all of a sudden they said, it's time to go. Hurry up and eat the food. You can't take it with you. But that's what I meant by the cushioning, the history, the legacy. They made sure that regardless of what our social determinants of health was, they poured into Operation Champ, arena play.
Operation Champ. Now that helped quell the riots, right?
That is absolutely right. Arena players, all of those kind of things gave us. I would go down there during the summer. I couldn't sing, dance, nor act, but they would let us come down and get the free lunches. And then we would do a production. That's why I'm with them now. To do the best that I can to work with arena players, Larry Young, Catherine Orange, all of them.
Catherine B. Orange, that was my English teacher.
That is absolutely correct. Up at
Lamel.
She worked at Coppin as well.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think she did adjunct type work up Coppin.
That is my sweetheart there. I love me, Miss Orange.
The Orange family. She would let me, because my mother wouldn't let me walk all the way from Pennsylvania Avenue down to Arena Players, or she would let me walk down there, but I would stay with Catherine Orange through the night, all of that. She would let me stay down there. That's the kind of thing that I grew up with. And so when sometimes when you see me with arena players or the different things, it is because I remember that they were more than just the theater. Those are the legacies that poured into you. Had I not had a Catherine Orange that lived right around the corner, Tracy Orange, Dana Orange, Ricky,
Dana went to Poly.
went to Poly, Rodney, all of them. And then yet she took me in. So those are the kind of things that just about community. That's why I do community work, social justice in my community today, because it really was a blessing to me.
Man, you done warmed my soul talking about Catherine B. Orange.
Oh man, I'm still whenever they again because my schedule is so busy, but I'm still connected to the Arena Players Board. Whatever I can do to help, because again they have been such a blessing to me, and it's the last of the kind of theaters in the country. Yeah, so I mean, again, powerful history, and that's why that's what pushes me even now. When Freddie Gray happened, that was important for me to take time to be with and to assist. That's how We Our Us started, right after that particular moment, and it has continued to this day.
I don't think we can finish this off without mentioning Jay Carrington Chun.
Oh, good grief, man. Oh.
But you thought this is going to be a light exercise? You know I had to do some homework.
Oh, National Center for Health Behavior Change. Dr. Chun gave me an opportunity of a lifetime when I started at Morgan as a professor. He allowed me to become one of the center's, he worked with me as a scholar in writing and all of that, how to write academically. And oh my God, he was a great leader. And the work that we did with health around the country, this great guy was pivotal to my academic career, because he was a phenomenon. I'm sitting here looking at one of his books right now, The Health Behavioral Change Imperative, right in my library. That's who he was. And I pay homage and deference to his name and some of the others that we mentioned, because I'm very clear there is no way in the world that we could be doing some of the things that we're doing in Baltimore without and around the country without some of these great leaders. That African proverb talks about, if you want to go fast, you go alone. But if you want to go far, you got to go together. And continuing to teach that systemically and collaboratively in our communities is real important, especially at the times that we're in right now.
Bishop, any final thoughts before we get out of here? Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. Love them glasses. And I can wear that cap 7 3/4.
Yeah. My motto is our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are more powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. So again, and in the words of Dr. Andre Bunley, when we walk in the street, good, better, best.
Never let it rest.
Never let it rest until your good becomes your better and your better becomes your best. This has been awesome. Anytime you've just been one. We've traveled. We've traveled this road.
We didn't mention Riley Hawkins. Let me just put it out there for the record. Riley Hawkins.
Yeah. I mean, he's still alive too.
The Avengers.
Yeah, he's still alive. I saw something on social media with, I think, his nephew talking, Glenn Hawkins' nephew, talking about that. They taught us how to have discipline, not just
in the penitentiary.
That is absolutely correct. That is absolutely correct. Those are legends. And wow, I wish there was something that people can do to really honor him while let him smell his flowers while he's still alive. Because he kept
Mitchell, Sensei.
Oh, I think he just passed recently, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I think he just passed. What is the other brothers from what's the guy Super Feet?
Leroy Superfoot Taylor.
That's it. That's
Cat
it.
had a windmill kick.
That is absolutely correct. That is correct.
I
Again,
was just under you. I was. That cat had a windmill. He had that windmill kick.
tall brother. That is absolutely correct. And that's what we poured our energy into. And we didn't have, of course, we did fight and things like that, but we didn't have some of the kind of numbers that we're working to bring down now.
But we did have Utah Gardens. We had Tim Conway. We had Coach Leon, Larry Middleton. Shout out to Northern Utah.
That is absolutely that rec. We had kickboxing, that gym with we called him Bordy, but he's Omar now. But again, we all of them were boxing. We had karate there. We had kickboxing. Al Parson,
The weightlifting,
all of it was right there in community, and we've got to. And I know that there's some work in preparing recreation centers, but again, we've got to realize between 3 and 5, we got to keep our young people's attention.
Bishop, thank you for taking time out.
Yes, sir.
If I can be of service, you let me know. But thank you for blessing us with a walk down history lane.
Walk down history lane.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate you.
Yes, sir. Good morning, world.
Yes, sir.